Traditional media is not the only approach for people to obtain news anymore. A recent Pew survey found that 30% of American adults turn to the social network for news. However, the social network could be a force for truth if it wanted to be. Thousands of news include various hoax propagated in social network. People believe what they read on Facebook, Twitter, and blog. I will introduce two cases of hoax through presenting a brief history, followed by an analysis of reasons how the hoax built the cognitive authority in the digital media. In 2008, a talented soccer player shocked the football circle. Moussa Bogdov, 16 years old Moldova soccer star, had his dreams come true when the Times of London ranked him number 30 among football's top 50 rising stars, and reported that he would like be signed by the British football club Arsenal. Unfortunately, this Bogdov was not existed. The fictional soccer player was created by a still unidentified hoaxer by posting the subject of blog in several social networks. A hoax typically makes some claim that becomes embodied in a textual representation, which will be shared through some communication channel. After the text is made public, there is some audience reaction. If the hoax is successful, the text will be taken seriously. Typically, some doubt will creep in. In order to make a hoax successful, hoaxers must be convinced to their audience. So what makes a hoax credible? In Bogdov's case, the hoaxer created a plausible person based on a series of journalistic conventions. Through using these conventions, the hoaxer was able to amass sufficient cognitive authority so that the acceptance of the hoax was inevitable. Understanding the ways journalistic authority has traditionally been established and the ways internet has expanded possibilities for its establishing could explain why Bogdov hoaxer was successful. The knowledge claims of journalistic are communicated to audience through a series of journalistic conventions. Such stylistic conventions allow journalists and the institution to make claims to symbolic power so that the audience is assured that is the truth. Blog users judge blogs to be significantly more credible than traditional source of information. The authority in blog is constructed through being able to deliver a series of recommendations that filter the vast amount of material available on the internet. Blogs rely on putting a particular narrative line into context and discussion. Authority is derived through assembling the multi-given narrative. Observing the strategy which the hoax use, we will find he utilized the feature of blog and words clearly. The construction of Moussa Bogdov began on July 19, 2008, when the hoaxer added a line to the Wikipedia. This addition became the foundation for future description of Bogdov. 2 days later, a short posting on BBC football discussion board and to England's top football league written in the post. Most comments were skeptical. Then the hoaxer's finally football talk made for convincing communication. Several days later, the hoaxer posted another message on Arsenal discussion board. To celebrate, Arsenal will cite Bogdov as a player. Also, 14 comments ranging from "there is no such player" to discussion of his possible contribution. The hoaxer did not respond to them. continued to post possible messages about book dev. During this time, a number of these blogs were duplicated, thus amplifying their effects. The Hawks posted several comments on various discussion boards during the summer transfer window exchange period for football. There is so much activities at that time, so that teams typically ignore what is written and do not bother to confirm or deny rumors. After 3 months windows of time, comments on posting no longer questioned the book dev's existence. Finally, the Hawks focused on book dev's work permits and clearance problems as rationale for him not being signed by any club. People will ask why the Hawks is so critical. Grace's maxims are expectations that provide guidance in the interpreting of communication. The four maxims are the expectation of quality, communicate what is true; quantity, communicate an appreciate amount; and density of information for given situation; relevance, communicate only information that is relevant to the topic at hand; and manner, communicate clearly and appropriately. The book of Hawks violates the quality maxim in many ways, but many information the Hawks fabricated were difficult to verify. For instance, from the beginning, the Hawks presenting his activities in obscure places that were hard to face check. The possibility described in subsequent posts that Bogdov would join a number of English football teams. So many rumors flying during that time. Most clubs and journalists do not bother to confirm or deny. In terms of club signing and work permit problem, all these issues were reasonably difficult to discredit. The maxim of quantity was nearly perfectly adhered to by Hoxer. A Hoxer took care to present an amount of information matching the fictional news story. Research indicates story with more details and that contain information that is typical of particular situations are seen as more plausible than those without. About the maxim of manner, an additional reason why the book of Hawks was so convincing was the Hawks' mastery of the sports writing format. He used phrasing and vocabulary that were highly familiar to soccer fans. The semantics used in news writing are typically straightforward. Assertions used in present unqualified truth claims. Over and over in the book of Post, the Hawks enable people believe that is the real story. Comparison with another case, this Hawks was happened in blog. It also happened in blog. However, it embodied ethical problems through the media literacy. Vancouver-based internet boss Taryn Deep Gill created a website for a research group specializing in online psychometric tests. Applicants claimed to have 100,000 volunteers take its IQ tests and recorded which browser the participants used. The results showed a substantial relationship between an individual's cognitive ability and their choice of web browser. It is a clear indication that individuals on the lower side of IQ scale tend to resist an upgrade of their browsers. After it was posted on July 26, 2011, the research was reported, blogged, tweeted, and retweeted through websites, blogs, and news institutions without any further research. Unlike the book of hoax, this scam just last 10 days. It was broken by the Computer Business Review on August 1, 2011. Gill created a different kind of hoax. He need not post the various factors in his story to convince people. The result contained fraudulence. The subsequent story spread because the research conclusion matched the existing bias and because the trusted news source assumed others had already checked out the story. Journalists and bloggers believe it is true because it filled into their worldview. First, that those still using early Internet Explorer versions are not technical savvy. Second, major media players get their story right. There lies the ethical problem. Journalists may claim neutrality, but story selection is ultimately based on personal bias. Online journalists, like all people, tend not to question that which they already believe is true and ignore that which challenge their existing version of the truth. As noted above, social network could be a force of a truth if it want to be. In an uncertain learning environment like Internet, hoaxers could build cognitive authority easily with the help of technology. Understanding the convention of digital media and traditional media is important. Moreover, considering the cognitive authority in social network with critical thinking cannot be ignored.